Some people can cross a finish line and feel nothing, not because the goal didn't matter, not because they're ungrateful, but because celebration to them feels suspicious. Like a door you shouldn't open too wide, in case something slips in behind you. You've met them, maybe you are them. The promotion comes through and they nod, already talking about the next thing. The exam results arrive and they say, yeah, I did fine, like the word fine is a blanket they can pull over anything that might shine too brightly. The strange part is they often look the most successful from the outside, and inside they move through life like someone quietly carrying a tray of fragile glass, always bracing for the moment it tips. Here's what most people miss. Not celebrating your wins isn't just a personality quirk, it's often a strategy, a learned behavior, a way of staying emotionally mobile in a world that once punished you for feeling safe. Think about the environment that teaches a child not to celebrate. A household where pride was treated like arrogance, where good news got met with a warning, don't get too excited, don't jinx it. That's nice, but you could have done better. Or worse, a house where any attention was dangerous. If you stood out, you got criticized. If you took up space, someone made you smaller. So you learn this quiet rule: achievement is safest when it's invisible. You begin to associate joy with exposure and exposure with risk. And it's not only families. Culture plays a role too. In some places, celebration is framed as vanity, as tempting fate, as inviting the evil eye, as making other people uncomfortable. So the body learns a kind of emotional etiquette. Keep your victories private, keep your face neutral, keep your heart guarded. There's a psychological concept hiding in there, not as a buzzword, but as a lived sensation. It's called anticipatory anxiety. The feeling that if you let yourself feel good, something will immediately balance the scales. So you don't pop the champagne, you don't even buy it. You go straight to vigilance, because vigilance feels like control, and control to you feels like safety. There's another type of person who never celebrates, and their story sounds different but ends in the same place. They were praised constantly, but only for outcomes. They were a smart kid, a gifted kid, the one who got medals and approval and that warm hit of attention as long as they performed. So the win doesn't land as a moment to enjoy. It lands as a moment to defend. Because if you're the person who wins, you now have a reputation to maintain. You can't rest. Rest feels like slipping, and slipping feels like losing love. People like this don't experience achievement as nourishment. They experience it as rent. Due again next month. You can hear it in their inner dialogue. Not, I did it, but now I have to keep doing it. So when they succeed, they don't celebrate. They recalibrate. They scan for flaws. They rewrite the story so it doesn't sound like success. It was luck. It wasn't that hard. Anyone could do it. It's modesty on the surface, but underneath it can be a form of self-protection. Because if it was luck, then failure doesn't mean you're less. If it wasn't hard, then you don't have to admit you cared. And if anyone could do it, then no one can take it away from you by deciding you didn't deserve it. There's a very specific pain in caring openly. Caring makes you vulnerable to disappointment, to judgment, to needing something from other people. So some minds decide, very early on, that the safest way to want something is to pretend you didn't want it that much. The win arrives, and you act like it's just a receipt. Paid. Next. But let's make this tangible. Imagine a person leaving a meeting where they nailed a presentation. Everyone told them it was excellent. On the walk back to their desk, they don't feel proud. They feel relieved. Relief is not celebration. Relief is the nervous system exhaling after a threat passes. Celebration would require something their body doesn't fully trust. The idea that the threat is actually over. Instead, their mind replays tiny stumbles. That one slide that wasn't perfect. The moment their voice shook. They don't go to dinner with friends to mark the occasion. They go home and check their email compulsively, half expecting an angry message. That's not irrational, that's conditioning. When your early world taught you that praise can turn into critique without warning, you stop treating praise as real. You treat it as bait. And sometimes the refusal to celebrate is also about other people. Because celebration is social. It says, look at me. It invites response. And if your history with other people is complicated, if your wins have triggered jealousy, resentment, coldness, or sudden distance, you learn to downplay them to keep relationships stable. A lot of people who never celebrate aren't trying to be humble. They're trying to remain liked. They've learned that success can change the temperature in a room. They've watched someone's face tighten when they shared good news. They've heard the jokes that weren't jokes. They've felt the subtle punishment of being the one who's doing well. So they adopt a quiet survival technique. Don't make anyone feel smaller by looking too bright. In that sense, their self-denial can be a kind of social empathy. But it comes at a cost, because if you never let yourself have the moment, The moment never becomes part of you. Psychologically, celebration is not just confetti, it's integration. It's your brain tagging an experience as meaningful, storing it as evidence that your effort matters. When you skip that process, you create a life where you're always moving but never arriving. There's also a darker twist. Sometimes people don't celebrate because deep down they don't believe they're allowed to. This isn't dramatic. It's subtle. It's the person who feels guilty when they're happy, like happiness is stealing. They grew up around someone else's suffering, or they were taught that joy is irresponsible, that there's always more to fix, more to worry about, more to earn. So pleasure becomes morally complicated. They can't enjoy a win without immediately thinking of what they should be doing instead. It's productivity culture turned into a conscience. Even on a good day, they feel behind. And when someone like that tries to celebrate, it can feel like a costume, like they're pretending to be a normal person who knows how to enjoy things. They smile for the photo, and later they look at it like it's a stranger. Now, not celebrating doesn't always mean pain. Sometimes it's simply temperament. Some people are naturally even-keeled. They don't spike high or low. They experience contentment more than exhilaration. But here's the key difference. Contentment feels warm. What we're talking about is something colder. It's the inability to let the win land. It's the win turning into a task. It's the moment getting swallowed by the next demand. And that pattern has consequences. If you don't celebrate, you train your brain to treat success as neutral. Effort goes in, results come out, but emotionally nothing changes. Over time, motivation starts to rot from the inside. Not because you're lazy, but because the brain is a learning machine. If it never gets rewarded, it stops believing there's a reason to try. That's when people get confused. Why am I so burnt out? I'm doing everything right. They're doing everything except one thing that humans have always needed, marking meaning. Ancient cultures had rituals for harvests, hunts, births, returns. Not because they were sentimental, because without ritual, life becomes an endless shift. Modern life already pushes us in that direction. Endless notifications, endless metrics, endless goals. And if you're the kind of person who never celebrates, you become the perfect employee of your own mind, always working, never paid. So what changes it? Not forced positivity, not making yourself throw a party if parties feel wrong. Celebration doesn't have to be loud, it can be private. It can be a quiet acknowledgement that lasts 10 seconds longer than you're comfortable with. It can be letting a compliment sit in your chest without deflecting it. It can be telling one person, not for validation, but for witness. Because sometimes the thing you never had was someone simply saying, yes, that matters, and you believing them. It can also be grief. Because learning to celebrate can mean confronting what you were denied. The childhood where wins were minimized. The adulthood where you kept yourself small to keep the peace. The times you swallowed joy so nobody could take it from you. Some people don't celebrate because unconsciously they're still living in a room they left years ago. The body remembers. It still expects the knock on the door, the sudden change, the price of being happy. But you can teach the body a new association, that pride is not danger, that joy is not arrogance, that letting a good thing be good doesn't summon punishment from the universe, it just makes you human. And maybe the most revealing question isn't, why don't I celebrate? It's, what do I think will happen if I do? If the answer is, something bad will follow, that's not logic, that's history. If the answer is, people will judge me, that's not vanity, that's social memory. If the answer is, I don't deserve it, that's not truth, that's a wound speaking in full sentences. The irony is that people who never celebrate their wins often have incredible endurance. They can keep going when others collapse. They can delay gratification like it's a superpower. They can survive without applause. And that's admirable until it becomes a life where you're surviving things that are not meant to be survived, only lived. Because a win isn't just an outcome, it's a signal. It tells your nervous system, we're safe now, for a moment. And if you never allow that moment, your body stays braced, year after year, like a fist that never unclenches. So if you're someone who never celebrates, consider this: the point of acknowledging a win isn't to freeze time, it's to let time touch you. To let your life feel like it's actually yours, not just a series of completed tasks. You don't have to turn your joy into a performance, you just have to stop treating it like contraband. And maybe, slowly, you'll notice something almost unsettling at first, that peace is not something you earn at the end. It's something you practice in the middle, right? Where your victories have been quietly waiting for you to look at them and say, without apology, yes, that happened, and it matters.